Ladies, have you ever thought you lost it? Lost it all? Well, that happened to me 2 years ago. Was kind enough to let me share his computer with him. So I would always log in as a guest. And if you know anything about computers, you probably already know where I'm going with this, but I would log in as a guest. He would have his portion of the computer and I would have my portion. And everything was saved on the hard drive. So I would work on all my books. And if you're familiar with my literature, at that point I had about 20 books on Amazon, all typed out in Word document. One day I woke up and I couldn't access it. It locked me out. So I got on the phone with tech support and they walked me through it and we discovered that there was nothing I could do. I lost everything on the computer. Now initially, the day before when I was locked out, I was like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll call tech support. They'll help me get in. I was believing God. I was like, I'll access it again. And there's nothing to worry. But once they told me I could not access those files, I cried so hard. I never cried that hard and that long and that deep in my life except when my mother passed and when my aunt passed. Those were the only other two times. Other than that, it felt like a parting, a passing. All my work was gone. Some people come out with second editions to their book. I could not, because if I wanted to correct anything or update it, or someone said, hey, you have a mistake here, why don't you change that? I would have to recreate the whole book. I would not only have to purchase my own book and retype it, but find all the images that I used and insert them at the correct places. I was so hurt. I was like, all this work for the Lord, and my husband the whole time was so encouraging. He told me, you know what? If God allowed this to happen, that means He no longer wants you to continue with that work. He's shifting you to a new work, to a new program, to a new design. It took me some time to digest that. I could not hear much during that time. I just felt like everything I had worked on was gone. So one of the books I was working on was 50 Shades of Pink. And it's a play on words, of course, the popular titles out there, but it has to do with every type of shade of pink that I could find. And for each shade of pink, I had the color, I had the name, I had a definition. I came up with something very creative, imaginative, and beautiful for each color. I had the best place to use the color in, who should be considering this color, like designers or maybe pregnant mothers, feminine women, etc. So that was the book I was working on. And so when I lost everything, it was gone, and all I had in my publishing account was just the colors and the name. So I said, okay, Lord, you don't want me to develop this right now? You told me not to continue and recreate this work. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna publish just the colors and the names, and I so wish I had everything else. As time went on, my husband purchased me a laptop, so I have my own equipment now, and I don't have to log into his computer, and everything's saved. And from that experience, I was sharing with all of my closest friends during that time, save everything, make a backup. From that experience, I back up all of my work now. It's all backed up. So I have at least 2 copies of everything. Fast forward to about 3 days ago, which would have been about 2 years since that incident. I was at a retreat and my husband sends me a text. And on the text is a screenshot of his computer. And I look at it and he asked me, "Are these your files?" And I look closely and it's every one of my books. Every one of my books that I had written and lost. How can I express how good God is? I had rested in my heart that I would never see them again. I would never republish any of my previous books. I would never have the opportunity to correct any mistakes. But God restored it to me. He returned it to me when I least expected it. It was so unexpected. I was at a retreat enjoying my life. I had started over. And God returned it to me, every last one. And so when I saw that, I said, "Babe, please, can you save those?" As soon as I got home from the retreat, I extracted those files off of his computer and put them on a special drive, so I have them. And I'm so happy to republish that book, 50 Shades of Pink, with the fullness of what God initially gave me. And it's like, there's so many dimensions to this story. It's a dimension of trust, a dimension of faith, a dimension of continuing on even when you feel like you've lost your current world. It's a dimension of restoration. It's a dimension of his great goodness and love toward his people. So years ago, he gave me this prophecy in my spirit. And the prophecy was, "You will lose nothing in this hour." And before he gave me that, I would lose things here and there and never find them again. But after that prophecy, I would believe it, I would quote it, I would remember it, I would bring it up to his recollection, and I would never lose anything. If I misplaced it, I would always find it. This computer incident was the exception. So I just thought he just wanted to shift me in another direction. But after I was obedient to shift, obedient to step in the guidance he was taking me, obedient to let that go and hold on to something new, then he restored what I lost. And now I can go back because someone found a mistake in my first book. I can go back and correct it now. What a blessing, which gives me the opportunity to tell you, if you've bought any of my books and you see a mistake, please don't be shy in sending me an email and say, "Hey, you might want to correct this," because I am wanting to perfect my work for the glory of God, and I can't see everything. Sometimes I miss certain things, and so I welcome you to please tell me, "Hey, you may want to look at this word or this punctuation." I will be so grateful. And I want to encourage you that if you have lost anything, trust in God and believe in the prophecy he's given in this hour, in this season, which is, you will lose nothing in this hour. And even if you can't find it in your current moment, he's going to give it back to you at a later date that he has scheduled, his appointed time for you. And trust in him. Thank you, Lord, for restoring all of my books to me. That's a lot of work, but he saved me the time. Sit. I did promise him he'll be in the next video.